Want me to do mine? Jordan, they're all
Yes, please.
waiting. Cinq, quatre, trois, deux, un, zero, zoom.
Awesome.
Let me
Sounding
try
great.
one more
Ready
time.
to
How's
go.
this? Five, four, three, two, one.
Karen,
That
we
sounds
have
much
we
better
have to
there.
start. Hold on, let me get started here. We're recording and let me hit go live. And we are live streaming and we're coming up on my encoder and I can see all of you. And ladies, I'm going to pick on somebody.
Can I,
Jean, nope,
can I,
too late, too late. Jean, behave yourself.
Yes.
There we go. We're live. We're live, Karen. No more prep. We're live. Let's do it.
All right, ready for the feed?
Karen, behave yourself. There we go. Okay.
love
Yes,
it.
Jordan, please.
I love
Send the
it.
feed your way. Have a great show.
Ladies, dance with me.
Welcome to Read My Lips Radio, a lively hour of unscripted conversations with savvy creatives. Producer and host, aka Radio Red, asks novelists, artists, photographers, designers, comedians, actors, musicians, composers, screenwriters, directors, and technology innovators about their creative passion, inspirational muses, and how they create. Ooh, how those lips can talk. Now, here's AKA Radio Red.
Radio Red in the house. Happy to be here. I have a packed house with three panelists who are chomping at the bit to get started, but they got to let me do my opening. Here we are. Thank you to the gentleman with the beautiful voice who introduces me every time. This is where I talk to creative people. No, they're not singers and dancers and artists and photographers and chefs. They're real people who have jobs and passions and careers and innovational lives. They've created their lives, and we're going to find out what they do. Creativity is something, well, we hope that school doesn't kill it in young children all the time. You got to do this, you got to do that. But as we grow up, sometimes we find our path. Many of us do, and we create. And I've created this show to talk to those people. By the way, Red just got a refresh if you're watching us, and she's happy to be more red because her colorist said, I saw you on YouTube and you weren't red enough. So she, yes, that were so many foils in my hair last week. I was picking up 1010 Wins Radio from New York. And in the never mind, those of you who know hair will understand that. So before we get started on the content, I want my three beautiful guests to please raise your fingers in the shape of the letter L. Make an L. There we go. Nancy and Jean. I haven't introduced you yet. And Karen, on the count of three, join me in saying hello, L, L, L. One, two, three. Hello,
Hello, L,
L, L,
L,
L.
L.
Jordan, they're tied for first place as the best, most in sync, unrehearsed LLL. LLL is lovely, lanky Laura Legs, our most loyal listener. Tried to get her to move to a place with L, but she still insists on living in Whitestone, New York. And she told me she's got a couple of health issues, and we're sending her a good be well, get well, feel well, LLL. There you go. And at 6:01 p.m. tonight, Eastern Time, I will get a report. Nancy Orlin Weber, you'll be in it. Jean Alfieri, you'll be in it. Dr. Karyne Wilner, you'll be in it. And she'll tell me what she heard, who you are, a little snippet of what you said on the show. So beware. I want you to all know that. Today is October 21st. It is the 295th day of 2024. Used to be a different calendar called Julian, and he just had this thing about he skipped 14 days in October. So if you had a birthday on the 3rd and the 14th, they'd be smushed together. If you had a birthday on the 10th, you didn't get it. So Gregorian came along and he said, we're looking at the moon, the stars. We're looking at a different clock. We got to add a leap year every fourth year. We're going to add a day and then everybody will be happy. So we say thank you to one of the early creatives, Gregorian. There you go. 70 days left. It's time to think about New Year's Eve. Next week, I'll give some advice. And this is the 43rd Monday. Nobody gives a you know what except me. So I want to read a little greeting to my guests, and I'll tell you full disclosure after how this came about. So, ladies, when I call your name, wave. Here we go. Welcome to Read My Lips, where creativity takes flight. Cool conversations with creatives, a round table of delight with host AKA Red, whose words, just flow on her scarlet mic in the live streaming glow. Today, we explore adventurers that creativity brings through stories and insights where imagination sings. The title of the episode is The Adventurousness, it's a big word, of creativity. Today, we will reveal how three unique creatives work, think, and speak for real. Here we go. Jean Fiore, say hello. She has a heart full of love for dogs who find homes with help from above. Zoggy the pug and his furry friends too teach us that shelter dogs have adventures so true. Her tales weave hope, joy, and tales that twist. Jean's passion for pups is hard to resist. What'd you think?
Oh, fantastic. I don't want to like it, Red, but it's so good.
Thank you. I don't know why. We'll talk later. And then we have Karyne Beth Miller Wilner, a thinker profound. From urban classrooms to psychology, she is found with CBT skills and somatic grace. She helps stroke patients release anger, a smile to trace. From clouds shaped like elephants to wisdom so deep, Karyne's journey of healing is a path she will keep. I hope you like that.
That's fantastic. Thank
I'm
you so
glad.
much.
And then we have Nancy Orlin Weber, wave hello, a psychic and a person so kind. Her intuition leads to truths others may not find. From mystery, who did we lose? We lost somebody there. No, we didn't. They just switched everything around. I saw my picture go up. Nancy Orlin Weber, I'm starting again, a psychic and person kind. Her intuition leads to truths other may not find. From mystery solved to compassion's warm glow. She also knits for children, a way for letting her love show. A nurse turned detective with a magical touch. Nancy's creative heart teaches us so much. I hope you like that, Nancy.
I love it.
I'm glad. So let me finish up here. Join me, AKO Radio Red, as we dive into the flow with today's adventurers in creativity, ready to show that life's true magic is when we dare to be bold, and creativity's stories are the best to be told. So gather round, lend us your eye and your ear as we dive into creativity with visions clear. AKA Radio Red's roundtable is set today. We hope to inspire you to live large, love life, and play. Ladies, how'd I do?
Outstanding.
I'm glad.
Wow.
Here's
You-
the full disclosure. Well, first of all, for the full disclosure is I use my buddy, my friend, I call it a she, it's ChatGPT.
Mhm.
She's my virtual assistant, but I, the human, finishes the poem. So here's we go. I take my opening, I write the opening and the closing because they're pretty standard. I customized a little. And then I took all three of your bios, which are about 300 words. Now, can you imagine me sitting there trying to come up with 6-line poems out of 1,800 or 900 words? Not going to happen. I'm busy. So I put everything into one submission to ChatGPT, and I push the entry, the return button. How long? Jean, you've watched the show. I don't
I
think
have.
you
I'd be
can't
cheating
play.
if I
You
answered.
can't
Yeah.
play.
Okay.
Nancy and Karyne, if you haven't seen the show, how long do you think it took for ChatGPT to send me the core of that poem, which I edited after? How many minutes? Put up your finger, Nancy or Karyne. How many minutes did it take? 1 minute, Nancy says. Karyne, how many minutes?
Well, I've seen the show, so I know
Okay,
the answer.
you can't. Okay. Nancy, it takes about 2.5 seconds.
Yeah. Well, you said minutes. Otherwise, I
Well,
know
I was waiting for the zero on the minutes. It's about 2.5 seconds. And I do edit it very carefully. I go back to your bios and I look and say, did she capture the heart of each guest?
incredible.
Capture the core. And I was very pleased with the outcome. I spent a lot of time editing this just for the three of you because I wanted you to feel special. And I know you do. So we're going to do bios now. And I have a challenge for each of you. I want you to take everything creative you've ever done in your life and squeeze it into 3 minutes. That's I know. Karyne is saying, seriously, Red? Yes, seriously, Karyne. That's the format. So I'm going to put Jean up first. Jean, I'm putting you on speaker view, full screen, and I
Okay.
invite you to tell us who you really are. Jean, welcome.
Thank you. So I would describe myself as a creative who has worked in the corporate world for the last 30 years, which isn't a place to be when you want to be a little different. And yet I think I can't complain. It has served me well, and it's allowed me these experiences that I get to write about now, which includes mostly dogs. So I've been dubbed the dog author, and I've decided to embrace that because it is all I write about. So I work and volunteer at the Humane Society of the Pikes Peak region, and I am shifting into an opportunity that I have now to be a full-time writer and speaker. And I would love to say that I would split my time between those two things, except that we have 4, we call them vintage puppies in the house right now, which requires shifts of dog walking. So probably a fair third of that time will be dedicated to that too. But my whole life, I've been a dog lover, and I really find my joy and inspiration in supporting people who help the animals, and then dedicating my time where I can to help them as well.
Jean, tell me a little bit about your book. I read part of it before the show and it's just delicious. Not delightful,
Thank you.
delicious. So just tell us a
Uh,
little bit about the title of the book and what it's about,
Sure.
please. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's called Twisty and True Tales of a Shelter Dog Matchmaker. And it's about displaced dogs that took the winding road instead of the straight path to happiness. Every story has a twist because they aren't necessarily heading in the right direction. And they're interspersed with stories about the adopted dogs in our house.
Very nice. It's lovely. The stories are short. They're very readable. They're relatable. I smiled. I even cried, I think. So,
Ah,
yeah. Was Butch the one who was the police dog?
Rover, who is all over.
Rover all
Yeah.
over. Yeah,
Mhm.
just lovely. Absolutely lovely. It's a good read. Thank you so
Mm.
much. Karyne, I'm putting you on speaker view, beautiful you. Would you please crunch your creative life into 3 minutes? Go ahead, Karyne.
Well, it's interesting. I'm a psychologist, but not a normal psychologist. Even though I'm licensed in Pennsylvania, Connecticut, and Rhode Island, I work with the body and I work with energy. So I call myself an energy psychologist. But I want to say this all started so long ago. I've never been good with my body. I'm not a kid that played sports. I was always chosen to be last on the playground. But my mother was getting a master's degree at Penn State, so she put me in children's art classes while she was in her studies. And I started drawing bodies, and I drew bodies and bodies. And then I got old enough where they actually let me do models. I don't think they were nude models, but they were models. So right there, I just got so fascinated with the body, and I moved to the potter's wheel, which is hard to do bodies on potter's wheel. Eventually, I got a master's degree in nonverbal communication at the University of Pennsylvania, and I studied with Ray Birdwhistle, who was known as the father of kinesics. And I learned all about body movement, and it's so interesting. Even I don't know if you can see this, but even the picture behind me is bodies. I'm gonna it might be a little too,
No,
so
it's
better
fine.
put
It's
it
fine.
that. But there's something about me that I just uh, like, from a psychological point of view, I want energy to flow. So it's almost like acupuncture. You don't want energy blocked in any one area of the body, nor do you want it leaking out of your body. And believe it or not, if you can get your energy balanced, it really affects your mental health in such a positive way. So, even that, which I'm sure I'll talk about a little later, and you've already mentioned my book on releasing toxic anger for women, that has so much to do with the body and how to work with anger.
Thank you very much. Very, very important. It's a world of
Mm.
chaos right now. We don't do politics on my show, but there's a lot to be unhappy about. I won't even use the anger word, but we all know what we're talking about. Let's just
Mhm.
settle in for a good hour here together. And I'm very happy to, I have to, another full disclosure, I met all three of you at the recent National Publicity Summit. And there's another summit tomorrow night. And I booked 38 people from your summit. I don't know who there are some repeats tomorrow, but I have to tell you that you count among 98 summit attendees have been invited on my show so far this year. 90,
Wow.
98. I know. I want a little credit for that somewhere. I'll talk to Steve. Anyway, now that's okay. So let's go to Nancy Orlin Weber. Nancy, happy to have you here. What's your 3 minute crunch? Go ahead.
I start with the idea of creativity. For me, creativity from the time I was little really came about mostly when I was uncomfortable. I didn't see it as creativity at first, but when I was supposed to sing in a music class, I hated being in public. So I made everybody sign a petition to cancel that class. That was my creativity then. As I grew, I found that I used creativity and never thought I did. So I think of people who are listening and thinking they're not creative. It's kind of like when I was invited to teach in writing at an International Women's Writing Guild, 1990 something. And I said, but I don't write. And she laughed. She didn't stop laughing. And she said, I want you to teach creativity and all the stuff you do besides. And I said, really? She said, yeah. But she kept laughing. Within a year, I had my first book. So, and I thought, well, You're silly. You wrote songs, lyrics for a folk singer who won awards with them. You did a nonprofit. You wrote the bylaws. What are you talking about? You're not a writer. So creativity is really a thought in my head of when I'm creative. And if I don't feel successful about what I'm doing, I don't feel creative. I think creativity is the connection we all have to all life. And when I connect well, I feel creative. And when I don't, I feel like I'm stuck. So for me, it's always been that. When I worked with law enforcement, I found the most successful people I ever worked with were very creative. And if they weren't, and some of them couldn't call it that, they'd call it a hunch, but a hunch is filled with all that creativity connecting the dots. So for me, life is filled with it. If it isn't filled with it, it's not really interesting, I have to tell you.
Interesting. Nancy, I want to ask you, please define what is a psychic detective. Can you give us a 2 or 3 line sentence on that?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Sure. It is a team member as a consultant to law enforcement. I had training in a police academy, working with law enforcement of all kinds, federally, nationally, state, etc. What I learned is you give what you can, you do the work, and you leave it alone. You're part of a team. You may never know the outcome, and it doesn't matter. You're just doing what you can. And for me, if I don't think creatively to get out of my own way, which is part of creativity, I think, is how I mindset to move it in another direction, then I am not good for anything.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, do you see crimes? Do you see?
Yes.
That's what I wanted to know. Interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I talk with the other side. Sometimes they're the ones who tell me who did what. And sometimes the person who wants to be caught tells me where they are.
Have you watched? I like to watch French procedural detective shows. I used to speak fluent French, and now I love to hear the spoken language, but I watch the subtitles. So you can't be multitasking when you're doing that. And there was a show very, very interesting called Balthazar. I don't know if you've ever heard of. And the actor used to be a comedian, and he's unbelievable, bigger than life. And I think he talks to the people on the, if I can say, the slab or the table, and asks them what happened to them. Interesting. And his ex-wife, who passed away, is also very present in his life. And it's a very interesting take on probably part of what you do. I'm going to stop right there. Let's go on with the show. We're now talking about, you each sent me, I appreciate it, a quote from a fictional character in a movie or a TV show or a song lyric, and you're going to relate the quote to our topic of creativity, what it means to you. So, Jean, your quote is from Ferris Bueller, the character played by Matthew Broderick. The movie, oh, it's such a classic. Ferris Bueller's Day Off, 1986. They call it a teen comedy. I think it was a much bigger movie than that. That is just so demeaning. John Hughes, he made it a love letter to Chicago. It's got the Sears Tower, used to be Wrigley Field, Art Institute of Chicago. He said, I wanted to capture as much of Chicago, the spirit, not just the architecture and the landscape. So Ferris Bueller, anybody who's been living under a rock too long or too young to remember, high school slacker, skipped school for one day in Chicago. I think he takes his dad's fancy car, has 2 friends with him. He breaks the 4th wall, meaning he talks to the audience about his techniques and inner thoughts. There you go. And here's the quote. It's an iconic one. Life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it. Jean, 3 minutes. What does this have to do with your creativity, please?
Sure. Well, and I grew up in Chicago. So 86 was a great movie when it came out, and still now here we are 40 years later talking about it still. I feel like we are very in a rushed society, and everything is moving too fast. So it isn't even a matter of choice. I've said repeatedly, I want to set a different pace. I want to have, a different feel to the day. And on occasion I can pull it off. But honestly, I got to have something that keeps pulling me back to, what are you focused on? And are you enjoying today because of all the thought you're giving to tomorrow? And so I like this one because it's fun loving. It's not so serious, but it gets to the point, and it's true. I love pausing. And having read this most recent book, would I have really connected all of these stories to say, wow, we got a theme here. Good things happen. Because so often we're focused on all of the things, and I'm not saying there aren't negative things out there. There are some bad things happening, but how do we embrace the good things? And that's what that quote means to me. How are we pausing to really appreciate and show gratitude for those great things that are happening in our lives?
I love that. And I'm going to make a homophone out of pausing to make it into dog's paws.
Oh,
P-A-W-S. I'm
that's
sorry.
fantastic. I totally missed that. That's
I
great.
just had to pausing. There you go. That's what you
Yes.
do. There you go. I gave you a new word. Let's go to Karyne Wilner. Karyne has sent us a quote from Sonia, played by Ida Ingevol. The movie was called A Man Called Ove, O-V-E with an accent aigu, but it's Swedish, so I don't think they call it aigu. 2015 Swedish comedy drama. It was a very touching movie. I saw it. A man named Ove he's bereft. He's a widower. His beautiful wife, Sonia, died. He's almost 60. He's living in a neighborhood where he used to chair the association homeowners, and his friend replaced him. And he's forced into retirement after 43 years working on the railroad, and he tries to do away with himself. And there's a new neighbor coming across the street with her husband and children, and they stop him from taking his life for most of the movie. It's a beautiful movie. It's very, very poignant and touching. And here's the quote. And Karyne, I can't wait to hear how you relate this to your creativity. I wasn't sure about this one. The quote is either we die or we live. This is Sonia, the past wife, the deceased wife, talking to Ove. So go ahead.
Well, I just think it's so relatable. I mean, to me, well, maybe because of energy. When we're dead, our energy contracts. Actually, we have no energy. And when we're alive and vital, there's expansion. And to me, I think creativity is all about vitality and life. It might be your inner life that's, you might not be up dancing, but something's going to come up and out, and it's very alive. And so to me, creativity is life, it's vitality. And I feel that most moments of my life, just feeling very alive and vital. And so I agree with the about pausing. Pausing is very different than contraction. So I think rest is important, but I think when people stop and get blocked, and it's almost like they're going into retrograde, that's not a good place.
It reminds me of the famous quote from The Shawshank Redemption that Red said, Morgan Freeman, get busy living or get busy dying. Similar idea. And we know what we're choosing. Thank you very much. Nancy, interesting quote, also iconic. This is spoken by Wesley. I never know how to pronounce the actor's name, Cary Elwes. To Princess Buttercup, played by the lovely Robin Wright. The movie, of course, Princess Bride, 1987 fantasy adventure comedy film. And this is from, I found the scene. It's the As You Wish scene. Grandpa, who introduces the movie, Peter Falk, explains to his grandson, played by Fred Savage, that every time the farmhand Wesley says, here's the quote, as you wish, to Princess Buttercup, he really means, I love you. But Buttercup calls him farm boy. She doesn't give a you-know-what about his feelings. All he ever said was, as you wish. Okay? So there's the quote. Nancy, what does this mean to you? Go ahead.
I can't stop laughing. Sorry.
It's okay. Laughter's good.
Because, right. First, as you wish, to me means I love helping you and supporting anything you want to do, whatever it is. It's an open-ended love. And it is my husband's favorite line to me. And so I always go, good, I want you to do this. I want you to do that. So when it comes to as you wish, it's also for me a kind of prayer for the people I want to support and help. It doesn't matter. I want children to feel that everybody loves them. I want adults who are hurting. I worked as a nurse in Whitestone years ago in Whitestone, New York. I was a supervisor there when I was a kid, 20 years old.
What hospital? What hospital, Nancy?
Whitestone Hospital. It's no longer there, I don't think. I don't know. Have no idea. But for me, as you wish is the universal love going out to all who need support.
Mm.
That's why I love it. But I also love the movie.
The other quote is by Vizzini, Wallace Shawn, wonderful actor, very quirky. And the quote is inconceivable. That's the other very popular, which would have been just fine for this too. Are you creative? Inconceivable, right, Jean?
Yes.
Inconceivable, right, Karen? Inconceivable. Me, a creative, a writer? I know, I know. Well, thank you, ladies. I appreciate the work you did to find interesting quotes. Now let's go to our creativity statements. And here's how it's going to work. You've each sent me 4 really good statements. We've covered some of them in your bios and in your explaining the quotes. I'm going to pick, starting out, one statement from each of you, and I will read it. You don't have to go find it. This isn't a pop quiz. And I'd like to ask you to express what else it means to you. They're all pretty complete, so I won't read the whole thing. I don't want to give it all away. If Jean's going to go first, I'll read it. If Nancy and Karen have something to say, something hits them, resonates with them about what Jean shares. I think you all have 10 fingers, I'm assuming, and you have 8 polite fingers. The middle one I don't respond to. So wiggle one. Yeah, I know. I used to do stand up. Now I just try to be cute sitting down. Wiggle one of the polite fingers and I will see you. I know, Nancy. It's what can I say? This is a low budget show and I'm the green room warm up comedian and I do it on the air too. So let me start with Jean. Jean, I'm looking at your statement number 1. This is interesting. You say, my writing is based on and thus a mirror of my real life experiences. My newest book, Twisty and True Tales of a Shelter Dog Match, I love that title, is considered a non-traditional memoir in that the stories are not about me as much as they are about the dogs I've encountered or adopted. I'm going to stop there. Jean, can you unpack that for us like they say on the news shows? It's a great statement because it is. Tell us more, Jean.
Sure. So I find that I write as much for myself as I do for others, and I've journaled for my whole life. And so when you talk about, what point did you become a creative? I think always, and that's the form in which it has shown up. Now, not everything I share, but on occasion, and you know how this works. You have conversations with people. They're like, "Oh, that's a great story." Well, when you get, "Oh, that's a great story," maybe other people can benefit from it, and sometimes as we move through struggles in life, especially for me, sometimes the thing that gets me through the most is how can somebody else benefit from this? Because it's really miserable. And I don't want to be here right now. But if I can be here right now and help somebody else through it, there's the worth, there's the value. And I feel like not that it's necessarily an obligation, but more a responsibility and a privilege to be able to share it with others. And again, where's the joy in the world? We have so many sad stories. I've got a few good ones, so I'd like to share them. And that's where it comes from.
I like that. Very often on this show over the years, I've asked my guests to define creativity. And one woman years ago said it's courageous. Another one said
Ooh,
curiosity. Well,
yeah.
I just came up with a title for a future show, Jean. It's going to be the privileges of creativity.
Beautiful. I love
Thank you,
it.
Jean. I like not responsibilities. That sounds onerous, but the
Right.
privileges of creative. Ladies, anything you want to say, Nancy or Karen, about Nancy? Go ahead, please. Oh, we got the finger. You gave me the finger. Go ahead.
This one.
I know.
Mhm. I love you. Great.
Mwah.
I, Jean, you emote so much kindness in what you say. And that joy is filled with kindness. So I am thrilled to hear you and to meet you. I love what you're saying. And I feel like, yes, can we double that?
Thank you.
Karen wants to add something. Karen, go
I
ahead.
just want to say that I love the fact that you've journaled most of your life. And I mean, it's like, I want that. I want that ability. Great.
Jean, do you journal digitally? Do you do longhand? Do you use a notebook? Do you
I
have a
do longhand and I always have. And I was tempted to drop it for a while because I had so infrequently gone back and looked at it. And to me, what is it worth? I get that you're processing things, but it seemed like it should always be worthwhile going back to, and I wasn't. And then it was introduced to me to try a prayer journal. And so some people call it a sunshine journal, some call it a gratitude journal. It's however you want to just capture specific things. So it isn't just a regurgitation of the day. It's hey, here are the good things that happened today. Here's what I'm hopeful for tomorrow. And that has been really very special. After 50 plus years of journaling, to capture a new angle to it, oh, so much fun. So highly recommend it for those who journal. Try that.
Thank you very much. I'm going to move on. Thank you, Jean, for that inspiration. And let's go to Karen. I'm looking at your statement number 4. I'll read it, and there's another one we'll do later. Karen says, I am most creative when I let go of ego. Let go of Karen and all I'm supposed to be or should be. Oh my, I just am. I kind of disappear, and at the same time, I'm totally there. I see patterns, a deep understanding, a vibrant intuition, and I don't know where it comes from. Ooh, Karen, enlighten us a little bit, please. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not even sure I know how to talk about it, but even when I was a child, I didn't plan things. I just did things. They just kind of came up and out. And I remember once I decided that our neighborhood needed a miniature golf course. So I created one in my backyard, digging holes. I don't know how my parents felt about that, but a lot of kids came. I made quite a few little bit of money. I mean, they were only charging nickels or something. But for me, it's like when I don't try to get your approval, it has nothing to do with you or an audience. It just feels like this is something that wants to happen. So it could be pottery on the potter's wheel. Right now, for me, it's writing. It can be with my clients as a psychologist. There's, Karen who needs something from that person isn't there. I'm just here. I'm the vehicle. And whatever happens between us will be something very unique and special.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I work. That's how I try to live. Doesn't always work, but that's how I try to live.
That's a lovely thought. It's very existential. Jean, 1 second. It's very existential. I think that, am I here? Who's talking? I think I've lived the last 20 or 30 years of my life that way. And sometimes I say, what did I do? Who's doing that? Who
Yeah.
created the radio show? Who designed the background? Who is trying to write a mystery thriller, almost murder novel for 2 years? And when I put the last line into the main character's mouth, I said I was done and I never published it, but I'm going to do it before the end of this year. I'm promising myself.
Good.
So thank you, Karen. Jean, you want to say something? Please join us. What do you
Sure.
think?
And now you're accountable, Red, because you said you're going to do it.
I know. I say that almost every week and nobody's held me to it, but you will. I want you to. You're
Well,
assigned.
absolutely. So, Karen, I'm curious, does it get easier over time to be that way?
Does it
Or
what?
is it
easier.
easy? Has it become easier for you to get in that
It's
space?
never hard. It's harder to not be in that space, to be honest. It's harder. Like I've already shared with Nancy that I really don't like publicity, and I don't even like public speaking because then I feel like I have to be on or something has to happen. So that's hard. What we're doing right now is harder for me than just whatever.
Yeah.
And Karen, that's why I call my show a party. It's just 4 friends who just met or recently. I met you all for 2.5 minutes at the Publicity Summit 2 months ago. We're just having a conversation, sharing ideas. That's it. You're not in a hot seat. You're not in an interview. A guest last week 2 weeks ago wanted to cancel. And I said, why? And he said, I'm so nervous doing interviews. And I said, and first of all, it was my birthday. I said, don't let me down. I picked you especially for my birthday. And then I said, I've never lost a guest on my show. And then I said, it's just a conversation. You're speaking in 3 minutes, sound bites. We're just sharing ideas. And within a couple seconds, he emailed back and he said, I'll be there. And he had a good time. So that's why I
Nice.
do this, because it's different. It's not okay, talk about yourself for 99 minutes. No, you can go anywhere you want, do your interviews. That's great. I just want to have a conversation where we share and reflect and we create ideas and share those ideas and learn from each other and get inspired and give lovely, lanky Laura Legs, our most loyal listener, something to write about every week. See there's a joint purpose there. I'm going to move on to Nancy. I have picked your statement number 4. I love this. You say, for me, The very essence of life itself is all about creativity. I remember standing on a corner in New York City and saying it would be beyond calculation to decide how much was involved in the creation of that one corner with the two stores at the corner. Then I look outside the woods behind me and I look at the trees intertwine, intertwine and hug each other, looking for comfort and look for that. For me, it's the essence of beauty of using creativity without even knowing it or thinking about it. We just do it. There's a lot in there to unpack. Nancy, can you help me, please?
Nope. You think it's easy, huh?
Okay.
Hey, it's a conversation. So I figured I'd get some attention on no.
Oh, you got plenty of attention here, lady. Go ahead.
No. But that's part of it for me is the sudden, because I relate to what Karyne had said about how early on we get this piece. And early on, when I saw a hedge in Brooklyn where I lived, I wanted to know if the leaves of the hedge had a life. Did they understand? Did every flower understand? Did every seed oh, can I see how they grow? I thought it was all magical. And I also found that being very painfully shy, crazy painfully shy, hid behind everyone. Documentaries, about a dozen of them I did, but there were 4 pictures of me growing up. I hid. You couldn't find me. But if somebody was being hurt or a plant was being hurt, all of a sudden I'd be blurting out. So I relate to what everyone has been saying about this. Behind every action, including that corner in New York, are hundreds of thousands of miracles that created that.
Yeah.
And that is the flow I feel and have felt during my birth. I remember it. So it made me very curious about what are we? And so for me, this is the form I live in, but it's the form I live in. And everything has connection and communication. So my whole life has been improving in some way that all life is wireless. Now we can say that, we have a word for it, but everything is wireless. Trees talk, birds talk. I've spoken with them. I wrote a book about all of them. It's all about animals and my relationship and they're with me. Chipmunks are the sweetest, I have to tell you. They are, and they don't even fight with squirrels. It's wonderful.
Ooh.
I'm shocked. So for me, it's all that creation. And creation is what? It creates. It's all the essence of creativity. And we all have it in every single cell of our body. I had a lot of fun naming parts of my body, giving them names if they get along or don't get along.
Okay. Okay,
I explain
Nancy.
to them, listen, you need to talk to each other a little bit better.
Absolutely. Well, I've always had a theory that our life is improv. And I went to comedy school and I did my stand-up debut at Caroline's in Manhattan with 10 other newbies. I went to Steve Rosenfeld's American Comedy Institute 3 weeks and we were on stage. We had to get our parents, our families, our friends to pay for tickets, just like a real audience. And there were hundreds of people there. And I did my 3 minutes on stage. It was quite interesting. And I got invited to do it as others, but it was just an interesting, I have no idea why I told you that story. Improv. Okay. When I'm talking to you, I don't have notes. I'm looking at Jean, I'm looking at Nancy, I'm looking at Karyne. I have notes for the show, but I'm improving. When I pick up the phone and say hello to somebody, I'm not a telemarketer, full disclosure. So I believe we're improving. And I also believe that our life is a patchwork quilt. And each patch represents part of who we are, where we came from, what we did, how we felt about it, what it meant to us, and the colors of the quilt and the pictures on it, or the patterns, the stripes, the stars, whatever. That's who we are. I have my quilt. You each have your own. I haven't talked about this in a long time, but ladies, what I would like to do is read you 2 of my poems. I belong to a poetry group at Writer's Digest. And every Wednesday morning, we get a prompt for the week from Robert Lee Brewer. and he's one of the senior editors at Writer's Digest. And there are 30 or 40 of us. I can send you all the link if you want. There's no fee. It's free. We post our poems and then we give each other a thumbs up if we like it, or there are boxes for comments. They use a disq.us website for this. It's interactive. And I do about 3 poems a week, but starting November, we do the PAD challenge. It's a poem a day. And I end up writing 3 to 5 poems every day for November and every day for April. Talk about improv, waking up and saying, what's the prompt? And we're going to do it. The prompt could be a word, it could be a phrase. Very interesting. I always write a limerick. I always write a double or triple haiku, and I write an acrostic. And I wanted to share with you, I think you'll enjoy this. Wednesday, July 24th, it was night shift was the phrase for the prompt. And I wrote this, I think it's an acrostic, NIGHTSHIFT. And I'll try to emphasize the word, never quite really at rest. It's the life of a creative, going, gripping, gyrating, growling, groaning, growing, highs and lows flowing on a mental Mobius strip. The days are the nights are the days again, shifting off and on, into and out of gear, hoping for unique brilliance even once. It's a calling, command, curse roller coaster, finding eureka, euphoria amid frustration and fears. Thus is the life of the creative.
Wow.
What'd you think?
Incredible. Incredible. And I got to say, that is really the essence of what you create on the show. When you say, this is what I want you to think of it as, it's a party, it's the vibration. It's exactly what Nancy's talking about. It's the vibration you create with the words that you choose and the setting that you have that makes this show so special. Red, it's fabulous. I loved the poem. Loved it.
You're very kind. And I have one more I want to read.
Okay.
I think you'll all enjoy this. This was from June 12th. I can't remember what the prompt was. I'm going to look it up. The prompt that day was write a discarded poem. Discarded. And here's what I wrote. It's called The Teddies Met. The Teddy Bear Council met one day. Sally, Minnie, Loretta, and Sue, Bobby, Ralphie, Willie, Jose. They weren't very modern. No phones or tweets, not a text. They had to meet in person, face to face, to see what's next. 'Cause someone started a rumor that had to be discussed. It said bears who do not look nice, missing parts or coating in dust, were not welcome in Teddy Land to live. No child would ever want them and wouldn't choose to give. So the council met and pondered what to do with Teddy's old. They wrote on secret ballots their decision to unfold. Each looked into their heart before they cast their private vote. The president tallied the ins, and of the outs took special note. Why would anyone want to oust a Teddy, beloved and true, just because it was raggedy or had lost a button or two? She added up the ballots, addressed the members then. Dearest Teddy members, I've known you from back when. We've cast our thoughts in secret, and now some of us will smile. For the others, here's a lesson. Now please listen for a while. We each were born fresh and clean, 2 eyes, soft fur, cuddly new. But the years of being loved have taken a toll that we may rue. We can't compete with teddies just bought from a local store, the handmade kind of teddies. We're not like them anymore. Why would we discard a friend who's lost their youthful gloss? They're already feeling sad enough into the dumpster. Let's not toss. The council listened to y'all, and here's what we have found. We've got enough love for all of us. Let's hug and stick around. For those of you who are shabby, here's a word you can apply. You're perfect now as shabby chic. It's true, I wouldn't lie. The Teddy Bear Council tossed mean rumors on the heap. Now let's get back to being friends with promises we can keep.
Yeah.
I love it.
Thank you.
I mean,
It took
you
about
need
10
to
minutes.
You need to be putting all these poems in a book.
Agreed.
You haven't
Yes.
done it.
So
This
fun.
is amazing. And you're
They are
talking,
so
Yeah.
meaningful.
oh my
Can
God.
Can I show you one
Yeah.
thing?
Yeah, sure.
You brought that up. My daughter has a store in Anna Maria Island, in Florida. 3 feet of water for every store. They're closed, probably for months or a year or whatever. So she has these from France, these little dolls, we'll call them. They're little rabbits or something, mice. And she's going to put them in the laundry because she wants to give them out. And so we all spent a day on the phone playing and saying, how about getting little lifesavers attached to them? And we'll make little, I lived through Hurricane Helene and then we'll donate them for all the children in any place. So you brought that out and I have goosebumps everywhere. I love
Aw,
that one.
thank
My
you.
daughter would love that one as a children's book.
I
That
can
alone,
share the poem with you if you'd like.
I think that is so beautiful.
Thank you. It just the
Oh,
word discarded came up. I have a
wow.
collection of little teddies and bears and
Mhm.
puppies on my bed because I live alone and I make sure they're comfortable when I go to bed at night and I thank them for being there with me in the morning. I know. And when my grandpuppies, my dogs come, my daughter's puppies, I put mine up on a high shelf so that they can't be dragged around the house and made all wet and scraggly. So anyway, what I'd like to do now, thank you for allowing me to read the poems. I have a couple of quotes for you, and then we're going to do some famous birthdays. I got about 10 minutes left. So here's a quote from Rapunzel, voiced by Mandy Moore in the movie Tangled, 2010 American 3D computer animated musical adventure fantasy comedy film. Could they fit any more genres into one? It's exhausting. Here's the quote: venture outside your comfort zone. The rewards are worth it. Haven't we all lived through that, ladies? Yes. Don't we understand? Here's another quote from the Rolling Stones, 1969. You can't always get what you want, but if you try sometimes, you'll get what you need. Isn't that true? And one more from Glinda, the Good Witch of the North, played by Billy Burke. The Wizard of Oz, 1939 fantasy film. You had the power all along, my dear. There we go.
That's great.
Now, I have a quote from Kurt Vonnegut, who lived from 1922 to 2007, American humorist and author of satirical and darkly humorous novels. He only wrote 14 novels. He only wrote 3 short story collections. He only wrote 5 plays. He only wrote 5 nonfiction stories over 50 years, and there are more collections that have been published since his passing. Here is the quote: go into the arts. I'm not kidding. The arts are not a way to make a living. They're a very human way of making life more bearable. Practicing an art, no matter how well or badly, is a way to make your soul grow, for heaven's sake. Sing in the shower, dance to the radio, tell stories, write a poem to a friend, even a lousy poem. Do it as well as you possibly can. You will get an enormous reward. Here's the kicker: you will have created something. What'd you think? That's one of my quote collections. Let's see. I have a quote from Roger Ebert, the movie reviewer. He says, when I write, I fall into the zone many writers, painters, musicians, athletes, and craftsmen of all sorts seem to share. In doing something I enjoy and am expert at, deliberate thought falls aside, Nancy, and it's all just there. I think of the next word no more than the composer thinks of the next note. Isn't this true? Now let's do some birthdays. By the way, years ago, I wanted to write a romantic comedy play. So I looked up what's the format, what typeface, how do you write a script? And I got a playwriting 101 and I downloaded it, put it in a Word document. And the next night at 1 a.m, I started writing my play. 3 nights later, I had a 30-minute 5-act play that I produced in my TV studio. I hosted and produced a cable show on Long Island. I got community actors to be in my play. And I directed it, which I'd never done in my life. And the characters talked to me. I didn't put words in. They told me where they were, who they were, what they wanted. And it was a little tearjerker at the end. It was pretty cool. Anyway, I can send you all the links because it's online on my Vimeo channel. So here we go. Today, October 21st, in the music industry history. In 1908, on this day in history, believe it or not, the first 2-sided vinyl record was offered for sale by the Columbia label in an ad running in that week's Saturday Evening Post. Oh my goodness, we weren't around. In 1917, Dizzy Gillespie was born in Cheraw, South Carolina. On this day, anybody remember A Thousand Stars in the Sky? Remember Kathy Young? Kathy and the Innocents. She was born today. She became a pop star. On this day, in 1956, this we'll all understand, Elvis Presley visited his favorite local movie theater, the Memphian, and an adoring crowd scratched his new Cadillac. I know, Gene, it's catastrophic. Elvis began the new habit of renting an entire theater ever since when he wanted to see a movie. Nancy, what do you think? He had the whole theater because he didn't want anybody parking there. In 1957, the next year, Jailhouse Rock went to #1. A few weeks later, he played the character in the movie. On this date, let's see, Johnny Cash in 1968 live release of Johnny Cash at Folsom Prison wins the best album at the Country Music Awards. And this day in 1999, George Martin, who produced most of the Beatles albums, joined a startup internet company called GarageBand.com as chairman of the advisory board, and they helped unsigned bands. On this day in 2016, Leonard Cohen released his final album, You Want It Darker. He was already very ill, and he died a few weeks later at 82. On this day in 1992, Madonna revealed all in a book called Sex. It was $50. It was wrapped in Mylar. It had metal covers, and the review says, and boy, did she reveal all. There we go in pictures. On this date in 2022, 2 years ago, Taylor Swift released her 10th album called Midnights. It broke the Spotify record for the most streams in one day, previously held by her Red album from the previous year. Now let's do some birthdays. We've got a couple minutes. Judge Judy Shineland. Everybody know Judge Judy? She's
Yes.
82 today. Judge Judy in her little lace collar. Tough but fair New York family court judge whose daytime TV show earned her. Anybody know how much it earned her? Anybody idea? $47 million in 2013. She's one of the wealthiest women in entertainment. Do you know what she did before she got on TV? She was a corporate lawyer for a cosmetics company. Interesting. Today, let's go down the scale here. Kim Kardashian is 44. I'm not sure you all care. Let's just leave that alone. But in 2015, I'm sorry, Kim, she was Time Magazine's one of their 100 most influential people, and her children are named North, Saint, Chicago, and Psalm, Psalm. We'll leave that alone with different people. Let's see. Glenn Powell, the actor in Top Gun, Maverick, starring Tom Cruise, is 36 today. And anybody ever heard of the rapper name of Doja Cat? She is 29 today. Her song was called Moo. We'll leave that alone. In Memoriam. Okay, Carrie Fisher. You all remember Princess Leia from Star Wars. She was born today in 1956. She lived till the age of 60. And Celia Cruz, if anybody knows Latin music, legendary Cuban singer, the queen of salsa. She only recorded 37 albums, and several songs are part of the cultural heritage of Latin America. Okay, here's the kicker. I have social media stars you're all going to say happy birthday to. You've never heard of them, and you never will, but just bear with me. On YouTube, we have a young man named Carter Scherer. He's 31. He has 10 million subscribers, Jean. Jean, are you sitting down? I want to make sure you're okay.
Yes, I'm glad I am.
Creates content with his brother Stephen, and he does do-it-yourself and stunts. He happens to hold a Bachelor of Science degree from Carnegie Mellon. He studied mechatronics, robotics, and automation engineering, and his parents gave him a welding machine for his 11th birthday, and he made go-karts and hovercraft. He has 10 million subscribers. He's 31. On TikTok, we have Caleb Alva. He puts soccer videos. Poor kid, he's only got 2 million views. I don't know why I included him. Then we have Michaela, Mikayla. She is 26. She has 6 million fans, digital content, posting trends, challenges, and duets. And on Instagram, we have Ann Twist. She's 57. Do you know why she has 2.5 million followers, Nancy or Karen or Jean? Because she's the mother of Harry Styles from One Direction.
Okay.
And she posts family pictures and her cat's photos. So she has 2.5 million followers. Today on the calendar, you will never hear of these holidays except here. It's Back to the Future Day. It's the date Marty McFly traveled to the past and set in motion his undoubtedly existential adventure, Michael J. Fox. It's Celebration of the Mind Day in honor of the birthday of Martin Gardner, mathematician, polymath, and writer, who wrote over 100 books. We'll leave that one alone. It's Count Your Buttons Day. Buttons were first made in 1250 in France when the first button maker guild was formed. That's enough trivia. It's National Apple Day, everything apple. The colonists in 1607 arrived in Jamestown with seeds from European apples to plant and harvest. And it's National Pumpkin Cheesecake Day. I have 1 minute left. In 2014, here's what I used to close my show, the top 10 tips for women. And the number one tip, this is 10 years ago, ladies, was aspire to be Barbie. The biatch has everything. I want you to know. Don't take offense. So here's my closing, and don't go away. We'll talk afterwards. So here we go. And I want to thank the three of you for being lovely guests, for being my super duper creatives today, for being so generous with your thoughts and helping to make this a real party. So here we go. Life is short. Break the rules. Don't we all? Forgive quickly. Nah, I throw that one out. Kiss slowly. Definitely. Love truly. Yes. Laugh uncontrollably. Join me in a quick laugh. 1, 2, 3. You could have done better, but I'll forgive you. And never regret anything that made you smile. Final closing. Work like you don't need the money because it'll show that you enjoy what you do. We wish everybody did. Dance like no one's watching. When I taught disco in high heels on top of a Formica tabletop in a high school cafeteria near Eugene, Oregon, everybody watched. I never fell, but what legs I had. Sing like nobody's listening. I try not to sing on the show. Love like you've never been hurt. We all have. Get over it. Let your heart regenerate and find new love. Money talks, chocolate sings, la. And last but not least, I stole this line from a host years ago. Thank you for turning me on. Radio Red signing off. Don't go away. Jordan, are we out? We're about 30 seconds early. Shall we talk some more, Jordan? What do you think?
Oh, we're clear.
We're clear. Bye, social. Bye-bye. And bye, record.